Hello everyone, my name is Nicholas Reid from Reid Corporate, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you to this special Resources Rising Stars Investor webinar. Many thanks for your time today. Well, the critical rare earths industry is one of the most exciting growth areas in the commodity space right now. Rare earths are vital ingredients in the manufacture of high-strength permanent magnets used in electric vehicles and wind turbines. And the demand outlook is being driven by the same mega decarbonisation thematic that underpins metals like lithium, nickel and copper. Plus, the global market is almost totally reliant on the supply of these critical metals from China, which has a stranglehold on rare earth supplies. Against this backdrop, we're seeing the rise of an entirely new generation of independent rare earth explorers and developers, many of them here in Australia, giving investors a unique opportunity to gain exposure to this compelling thematic. Today, we're delighted to bring a new rare earth story to our RRS network. PVW Resources, ASX ticker PVW, has recently commenced a potentially game-changing exploration program at its flagship Tanami heavy rare earths and gold project, located in Western Australia's emerging Kimberley REE province. In late June, PVW commenced a 35,000 metre maiden drilling program designed to unlock the potential of this exciting project. To tell us all about it, we're delighted to have PVW's Executive Director, George Bauk, with us this morning. The format for this webinar is that George will take us through PVW's latest investor presentation, which has been uploaded to the ASX platform this morning, and which you can follow on your webinar browser. Once he has concluded, we'll open the floor to questions. A reminder to everyone listening, please use the Q&A tab on your webinar browser to log your questions, and please remember to fire them in as George is talking so I can put all of your questions to him at the end. George wasn't able to present at our recent Resources Rising Stars conference in the Gold Coast because he was travelling overseas on a roadshow at the time, but we're absolutely delighted to have him with us this morning. By way of introduction, George is one of the most experienced rare earths industry executives going around. His career spans more than 30 years and he has worked in global operational and corporate roles for Northern Minerals, WMC Resources and Western Metals. He was Managing Director of Northern Minerals from 2010 to 2020. I'd now like to hand over the floor to George and to welcome him. George, good morning. It's great to have you here this morning. Please take us through the PVW story.
Great. Thanks, Nicholas, and thanks everyone here for allowing me to present at the webinar session and take you through the PVW Resources story. As the front cover says, it's the right place, right team and right time to be getting on to discovering a new rare earth deposit. You'll see that's our standard disclaimer. So PVW Resources is a diversified, well-funded explorer. We're focused and based in Western Australia, and our real key focus at the moment is in the Tanami at our rare earth and gold project located near the Tanami Road. I'll take you through all the key ingredients of what we're looking for during the presentation. As mentioned, we have started our maiden exploration program with a 35,000 metre program, commencing with 10,000 metres of RC drilling. We recently raised $9.4 million at 40 cents, and we've got a portfolio of assets that we won't go through today, but are also located just outside of Kalgoorlie, Leonora, and in Ballineau in the West Yilgarn area. So as an overview, 96 million shares on issue, share price closed yesterday at 30 cents, taking us to a market cap of about $29 million with 10 million in the bank, so an EV of about $19 million. We've got some really great supportive shareholders. Jason Peterson's our major shareholder, was involved in assisting us in getting this listed last February. Lynn Partners through Jeff Easton, or Straight Equity. Jeff has been a major supporter since the inception of PVW as a private company, board holding over 5%. Good solid liquidity, but share price has trended down as I'm sure many other companies has in the past 3 to 4 months. In terms of board and management, so David Wheeler is our non-executive chairman. We merged with a company called Thread. Dave was involved in that company and stayed on with the board, assisting us driving PVW forward. Myself and Colin McCavanagh, both founding members, directors of PVW Resources as we were a private company, and I'll take you through our experiences a bit later. Joe Graziano, our company secretary, Carl Weber and the team taking forward the exploration side, and we've also got Robin Wilson as a consulting geologist who worked for me for 10 years at Northern Minerals, which again, I'll take you through a bit more of his detailed experience a bit later. So if we just focus on the Tanami. So our project area is located right, it abuts to the WA Northern Territory border. We're located about 15 kilometres north of the Tanami Road, and that's a really important bit of infrastructure. And we saw in the last federal budget and state budgets that there's been a significant commitment by Western Australia, Northern Territory, and the Australian federal government to invest over $900 million to seal the Tanami Road. That'll bring in a significant benefit to the company, both during the exploration phase and hopefully on success of our exploration into construction and the like. So significant bit of infrastructure there. We're also located right near the Coyote Gold Mine, which has just recently been purchased by Black Cat Syndicate. That has a 140-person camp, which provides us local housing to house the exploration team there, which is again very close to where our project area is. We've got over 1,270 square kilometres of land holding in the area, quite contiguous, and again all the way north, located about 90 kilometres away from the Northern Minerals Browns Range project. And the potential here is for a hydrothermal unconformity style rare earth deposit. So look, I'd like to take you through the key ingredients for discovery success. So what we're looking at is an unconformity style deposit. Now, this is something that during our time at Northern Minerals, we discovered the Browns Range project with deposits like Wolverine and Gambit in a similar style setting. We've used that model to provide a target and a model for ourselves at PVW Resources, and we now have three key ingredients that we're looking for to target these style of deposits. And they include the right stratigraphy, the right style of mineralisation, and the right plumbing system. So if we start off with this diagram here, you'll see that running right through that key tenement package there, it's sort of looking more northwest in terms of orientation, with the border of WA Northern Territory right on that corner on the right-hand side. You can see there an 18-kilometre unconformity trend that has been identified by both GSWA as well as our team on the ground last year. And that's a significant feature that will hopefully be a key part of discovering a heavy rare earth deposit in the region. Underneath that is a radiometric survey that was undertaken. Now, what your eye gets drawn to is the white areas, which is the highest reading of radiometrics, and that's usually a good indication because where you find rare earths, you find uranium and thorium, if you like. However, in other areas where you see dark blue, where there is little to no response of radiometrics, that doesn't mean that it's not there. It could be clearly covered up by up to 30 centimetres of cover. So it just makes it for a different style of targeting in those areas, if you like. But you can see where the immediate ground truthing commenced along that unconformity where you see elevations of radiation. So we've got this unconformity, and then it's now seeing whether or not there is actually rare earths in the area. And so as part of the 2021 program, the guys got on the ground, focused in on the Castella and the Watts Rise areas, which are located about 12 kilometres apart on that trend. And through rock chip sampling as well as soil sampling, we uncovered a significant amount of rare earths in the area. And we're talking about, over 25 of these samples going over 1% of total rare earth oxide, with a highest rock chip reading of 12.45% rare earths. Now, the other thing is, with the experience that Robin and I have had with Northern Minerals in particular, again located 90 kilometres to the north, was that we've uncovered a xenotime style mineralisation. Now, xenotime is a yttrium phosphate, so it holds the heavy rare earths, which are really a critical component going forward. And I'll go through a little bit more about the heightened criticality of heavies as part of the total rare earth picture, if you like. So we had boots on the ground and really looked at mapping out. And so there's a lot of fluid flowing in this area of rare earth mineralisation. The third key component is the right plumbing. So we're looking for faults and folds. And so as part of some airborne surveys we flew, as well as some historical airborne surveys, we used Southern Geoscience to help us do a review and uncover the faults and folds in the area. So this was the third real key piece of the ingredient to get us really excited and interested in starting to drill this project. So what we have here is across the 12-kilometre area, our first areas of target for the RC drilling for 10,000 metres is at Castella and at Watts Rise. And the reason for that, it's got the three key ingredients, as I've just gone through, in those areas to get us to go and immediately do RC drilling. You can see a red box there that covers both between Watts Rise and Castella, as well as along strike past both those areas, is where we're going to start with air core drilling, because that's where we've got some soil cover. And so we need to use air core drilling to see and get the key focus target areas there where we can see rare earth mineralisation below surface. So it's going to be very shallow drilling to almost uncover what we had the fortune of at both Castella and Watts Rise. Now, to put it in perspective, back in 2010, when we were exploring for rare earths at the Browns Range project, we only had an outcrop the size of a standard boardroom table. Now, that's a significant difference to a 12-kilometre area where we've had this huge amount of outcropping, so significantly different. Now, not only are we looking for rare earths in this exciting province, which hosts the Browns Range project owned by Northern Minerals, it's also a significant gold province, and I suppose everyone has been looking for the next Cali owned by Newmont, which is in the Northern Territory. Now, we know in the area we've just seen Black Cat Syndicate purchase Coyote off Northern Star, which they have the mill on care and maintenance, as well as Bald Hill, which is located to the north of our tenement package there, which houses in the red. And so there is significant potential here for gold as well as rare earths. And you'll see here back in between 2010 and 2012, the previous owners undertook a drilling program, and that's sort of pretty close to the last 4 holes they drilled in the area around the Watts Rise project. And you can see some of those numbers: 12 metres at nearly 3 grams, 12 at 1.5, 16 at 2.48, and 5 metres at 7 grams. And you can see at surface and only down to 60 metres. So very shallow, exciting prospectivity, given some of the other deposits in the area, if you like. So as part of our drilling, we're going to get 2 for the price of 1. All our drilling will be obviously focused on the rare earths, but we have seen both those results at Watts Rise as well as at Castella. We saw rock chips returning up to 9 grams and 4 grams. So we'll be doing assays for both rare earths and gold. So we're only going to add a small amount of the cost to this program to both get the benefit of the rare earth mineralisation potential as well as the gold. So exciting times in that perspective. So if I can just take you through the rare earth side of things in terms of the thematic and what makes us exciting about this particular area, if you like. Rare earths are critical to many industries. So the electrification of transportation, with particular reference to EVs, where we're seeing motors move from a traditional induction motor to a permanent magnet motor. And these magnet motors require a neodymium iron boron magnet. Now, what's not being spoken about is those magnets also need a little bit of dysprosium in there, which ranges from somewhere between 2 to 8%. The dysprosium allows the magnet to retain its charge at a high temperature. So if you can imagine the application of these magnets across the various critical industries, there's usually a lot of heat and other magnetic fields associated. So it's really important to make sure that we don't have failure with these magnets, and hence why dysprosium is such a critical element, if you like. So wind turbines are a big user of it, as well as defence forces, robotics, and industries we just don't know about yet. So one of the other exciting elements is what have we yet to commercialise and see in the marketplace because of new technology, as well as the concern about securing supply, both globally and outside of China, for having non-dominant, monopolistic supply chains, if you like. And just quickly, whilst we talk about rare earths, you will find deposits usually dominant in light rare earths and heavy rare earths. So Lynas, MP Materials are very much a light rare earth project where the key elements there are neodymium, praseodymium, which go into the permanent magnet. And then you have the heavy rare earth dominated projects. They are most of them in southern China, so 99% of those projects are extracted out of China. Northern Minerals has a heavy rare earth dominated project with a xenotime hosted deposit. That's what we're looking for at the PVW project area to the south of Northern Minerals. And that's enriched in dysprosium and terbium, the two key elements that get added to that magnet that I mentioned before. Now, we can talk a lot about this and people hear about, why is everyone so focused on rare earths? Is it critical? Why is it at the top of the list? These are three examples in 2022 that we've seen government support projects globally. Now, the big one on our shore was the $1 billion that the Australian government has committed in a loan facility to Iluka Resources to develop their project near Geraldton. And then we've also seen the US government hand out $30 million US to MP Materials to develop downstream heavy rare earth capability, and a further $120 million US to Lynas to also do the same thing of developing a heavy rare earth separation plant in Texas. So again, all three of these are very tied to heavy rare earths, and you can see how we're positioned to explore for the key ingredient into these projects going forward. Bringing the balance back, that's a famous saying back from '87, and I had a lot of friends when I joined this industry many years ago that used to laugh when I talked about the Middle East has oil and China has rare earths, and everyone just thought of, whatever. But you can see now it's just a hot topic. It's got so much from an application point of view. We're short, even with China's dominance and with their abundance of rare earths. They won't keep up with future demand, where we're seeing demand forecasts from 2022 to 2035 going up threefold. We're seeing the amount of volume of EVs, you're seeing wind turbines continually increase, robotics and more in our industry. So there's just a continual demand for rare earths going forward. Pricing, we saw a rise in early parts of 2022, but again, the real big issue here with pricing is that China dominates this market. So we need to get rid of some of the opaqueness of the market, look at other pricing mechanisms to make it a more transparent price going forward. So I mentioned before, as part of rare earths, I've been involved in rare earths since 2005. So this is 17 years that I've been involved with rare earths. 10 of those were with Northern Minerals, where I led the company to take it from a greenfield exploration all the way through to producing heavy rare earth carbonate that we sold through ThyssenKrupp to the world. So that was a significant milestone in being able to convert an exploration success story. Robin Wilson, who led the exploration team at Northern Minerals, has joined me again. And so he's providing his expertise to our team at PVW Resources to really drive forward the development of this project. And finally, Colin Kavanagh was with me the whole way at Northern Minerals. He was there before I started. He's got a wealth of knowledge of developing projects around the world in Africa, North America, Australia, and has a deep knowledge of the rare earth space through his time at Northern Minerals. So we talk a lot of referencing back to Northern Minerals. It's not that we're going to follow the identical pathway, but we learned so much as part of that journey. So we started off with rock chips. We did the mineralogy. It's so important. Whilst we had an extremely high level of confidence that it was xenotime, we did go and make sure and get that confirmed by mineralogists that it is xenotime. So that's really important to unlocking the downstream processing of the mineralization you find. And it is really important to find a mineral that is known to commercialization. And xenotime is one of two minerals that has been successful in producing heavy rare earths around the world. So we've done a little bit of test work to make sure that there was no fatal flaw, which we've got a tick working with IMO on that. And now it's all about the exploration. And so we've started that off just only a few weeks ago following our heritage survey approvals. And we've got 35,000 metres of drilling. We're going to go flat out to find a project up in the Tanami project. As I said, it's xenotime, or as they say in the US, xenotime. That provides for a relatively simple flow sheet, crush grind, ore sorting, mag set float to produce an intermediate concentrate, going into a cracking plant, to produce a carbonate, which then goes into solvent extraction. You can see there the distribution. Yttrium dominates the volume of rare earths, and we've seen the price of that go up quite dramatically this year. Probably one of the best performers on the rare earths side of things out of the 17 elements. But the real money spots for us is the dysprosium and terbium. So that's really where the value of this project will benefit from those two key areas. Just quickly on our other projects. So we have the Kalgoorlie project. It's in a world-class gold district. It's located within 30 kilometres of Kalgoorlie. It's near the Paddington Mill. It's also near the Kanana Bell. We're drilling there, waiting for results. We've got a 4x2 kilometre soil anomaly going over 40 ppb gold. So we're really excited about that project. Leonora, well, it's probably the hottest topic in gold at the moment with some of the transactions happening recently. And I know Canaccord called that a couple of years ago in relation to being one of the top 7 jurisdictions globally for potential exploration. And we've got a small resource there at Jungle Well and a very good project in Brilliant Well located just north of Leonora. And we also have a nickel copper PGE that we pegged last year in the West Yilgarn. So the key takeaways, I think we've got a company making globally significant discovery. We've got board and management with the experience that we've been there before, and we're ready to do it again, and we're ready to do it differently. And we've got a major drilling campaign underway, and we've got strong cash. So thank you very much for listening to the presentation.
George, thanks very much. What a great story. Just a reminder to everyone listening, please use the Q&A tab on your browser and fire your questions in, and I will definitely put them to George. George, if I could just kick off with one around the drill program. You've only been drilling for a week, I realise that, but can you give us a bit of a sense of the timing for results, when you think we'd start to see results begin to flow? And also, what is your strategy for managing the release of results, given this is a big program and it's probably going to go on for a while?
Yeah, look, I mean, at the moment, like you say, we've only been drilling there for about 8 or 10 days. So putting in the first 10 holes. We're hoping to get a batch of samples away in the next week to the assay labs. Whilst we have XRF, handhold XRFs on site, we are still working through the accuracy of those and trying to understand that. So we're just working through that particular scientific aspect of it, if you like, to see how we can share information to the market as we go along. So look, we're going to be drilling up there for the rest of the year up to November. So we're hoping we're going to put out frequent news release, and whether we can do it by visuals, XRFs, but definitely the assay results. So hopefully the assay labs have reduced their time turnarounds and we can get them out a lot quicker.
And fantastic, thanks, George. And also just the overall program, how long will it run for in terms of overall scope, and how does the RC and the air core sort of components, how do they kind of interplay with each other?
Yeah, so look, we're hoping to be up there, and when I talk about November, the real key driver for us is the wet season constraints that we have on that part of Western Australia. So traditionally, you usually get out of there by the end of November based on the rain coming through and causing logistical issues, if you like. So we expect to be drilling for the rest of this year from a seasonal perspective, 35,000 metres of drilling. So the RC drilling is in those areas at Castella and Watts Rise. So we're going to be focused on the areas that we have seen surface mineralisation, using the RC rig to focus on that. The air core rig is going to work across the 18-kilometre unconformity, going beyond the soil cover to see whether or not we can uncover areas of significant rare earth mineralisation near surface. We find areas of interest and we'll follow that up with RC drilling. So we'll be managing that program and hoping to uncover multiple targets by the end of this year.
Fantastic, thanks, George. George, you used the Northern Minerals comparison and the journey that Northern Minerals went on. We've got a question here from Peter Hartman. He said he makes the observation that Northern Minerals took quite some time to get to production. He says, will PVW be too late to production if they find an economical deposit? So I guess the question is around, what's changed in the industry in terms of moving these projects forward today as opposed to, say, 10 or 15 years ago?
Yeah, look, I mean, one of the biggest differences we have at PVW is that we're actually not exploring blind. We've actually gone through the journey. So when I go back and reflect on 2010, we didn't have the benefits of portable XRF at that time. We were still trying to understand what the size of a deposit could look like. We were trying to unlock some of the metallurgy. We went through a large-scale pilot plant process at Northern Minerals because nowhere in the world was there ever any production of rare earths from a hard rock xenotime style mineralisation. So one of the benefits we have at PVW Resources is that we can learn and take advantage of all that hard work that was done at Northern Minerals in relation to the development of the flow sheet. There will be modifications to that because not every rock is the same. So there will be adjustments to that depending on what other elements are in the host rock. But we've got a huge benefit by being through that journey at Northern Minerals that we should be able to fast track it. So we're very focused right now on making sure that exploration is our #1 priority. We've got to make sure that we develop and we'll find a large enough deposit. But we know what the end game looks like because a group of us have been through there. We know what a beneficiation plant looks like, a hydromet plant looks like. We've been through a fair bit of the approval process, both state and federally. Again, markets behaving, making sure that we've got enough money in front of us, that we're not being stop-started by equity market conditions. We should be able to bring this into production quicker. And that's not to say that the journey of Northern Minerals was slow. It was just a different journey, and we're now more knowledgeable from where we are today.
Thanks, George. We've got a question here from Keith. He says, can you talk further about your recent trip to the US and what its purpose was?
Yeah, sure. So there was a number of purposes there, but I spent the first week in the US, visited people involved in the supply chain. I have to be careful what I talk about because some of it's under confidentiality, but I visited a number of companies that are involved in the rare earth supply chain, both in the US and Canada. And secondly, I went to DC for a few days, had the pleasure of going to the Pentagon, meeting with the Department of Defense, met with the Department of Energy, had relationships there with, for some time with those agencies, if you like. And they were really interested in seeing what we're doing at PVW Resources. I suppose it's the fact that the team had been through a journey before and actually gone to production. So I suppose we get respect for that. But really engaging with US government agencies to find out what we're doing, what's our time frame, what are we looking for, what's the potential size and so forth. I mean, again, you go back to it, Biden came out when Ukraine was invaded by Russia. That same day was the day that he announced $30 million going to MP Materials. Now, if you look at MP Materials, Linus, many of the other projects around the world, they don't have an abundance of heavy rare earths. They are dominated in neodymium and praseodymium. So they are really looking at who is looking for heavy rare earths. And Northern really stands out as a real leading asset globally on the rare earth stage for heavies. We're 90 kilometres away, so they naturally want to speak to us about where we're at in our journey, what our plans are, what are we thinking about from downstream, who do we want to partner with. I had a history there at Northern Minerals, and there's a lot of Chinese investment in there. So looking at what does that mean for PVW, etc. So there was a lot of angles they were really quizzing about. A, what's happening in Australia. B, tell us more about PVW.
Fantastic, thanks, George. An investor's asked if you can talk to the gold potential at the project and perhaps explain how the gold relates to the heavy rare earths, or do you know yet how it relates?
Yeah, look, I'd love to be able to answer the second part of that question succinctly, but that is still an unknown. Again, referencing Northern Minerals, we didn't see almost any gold up in that project area, so it's not something that we have been aware of in terms of our past experiences. So, this drilling program will hopefully uncover how much of it. Is it intertwined? Is it closely related, if you like? Again, the potential up in this area stems from people, and Northern Star had a big foothold both in the Northern Territory and WA. You've got many other companies there. Recently Encounter spun off Hamlin. They raised $10 million, I think, in 2021, looking for gold extensions to the southwest of us. There's enormous potential. I think most people will say statistically it's uncommon to have one elephant in the room, if you like, and the current one that's been discovered is Kelly, which is world-class in Newmont's resource book. We've got outstanding drill results at Watts Rise, as I outlined in that presentation. They're pretty spectacular results to walk away from. I think that's the fence, the most eastern fence on that drilling campaign back in 2012. So we've got immediate drill targets that we will drill at Watts Rise, but there's also rare earths in the area. So, it could be a marriage made in heaven of having both rare earths and gold to support and strengthen the economic potential of this project.
And given the scale of the target area, George, that's an 18-kilometre long horizon on that slide that you showed. That's a big area. I mean, is there potential for multiple deposits in that zone?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll be. That's why we're doing the air core drilling, because we really don't know how many really good targets there are along the 18 kilometres. But again, drawing that analogy back to Northern, we had one small outcrop. We had a few other areas of interest that, if you go back to 2010, were identified through some airborne radiometric highs. But what we have here is a significant trend of 18 kilometres. I mean, you start putting that, and I apologise to people listening that are not from Perth, but in a Perth context, that's from here to Hillary's. So you can imagine if you try to just visualise that length of area, and you're looking for Central Park, for example, from a dimensional perspective, and people have plugged them between Perth and Hillary's and said, go find it. There's huge area to be able to hope to see multiple of these deposits along that 18-kilometre unconformity.
Thanks very much, George. An investor has also asked what your plans are for the other projects. You've got a reasonably big portfolio. If you have success in the Tanami, what would your strategy be with your other assets?
Yeah, look, in a perfect world, you'd like to keep everything and develop everything, right? So, it'd be fantastic to progress all our projects. But I think everyone knows that, when you start having a defining moment and getting onto a project and building that project, all of a sudden your second and third assets start to become the poor cousin and struggle to get attention, both financially as well as from the people in the company, because you'll always be limited. So, we'll evaluate that. I mean, the potential of those Kalgoorlie assets, you've got a hungry Paddington mill that's located within kilometres. I mean, one of the northwest corner of our Kalgoorlie project saw the development of the Jakarta open pit, which was only constructed last year. And that's within 60 metres of our tenement boundary. And we know the mineralisation goes into that northwest corner. So, we would love to be doing more drilling at our King of the Hills project. But again, we won't be withdrawing any attention away from the Tanami project. So they're things the board are constantly contemplating about what we do with these other assets. And as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing so much activity in Leonora. And we've got a small deposit, I think about 26,000 ounces that is open. So we've got potential there at our Jungle Well deposit. Brilliant well on the other side of the highway heading up to Leinster. That's got exciting, early stage mineralisation that we'd love to follow up. So, they're decisions we're going to have to make at some stage. But yeah, we want to get to that defining moment as soon as possible with Tanami.
Fantastic, George. I might just wrap it up with a sort of final big picture question on the market. The title of your presentation is, right time for a discovery, right time, right place. Some people have talked to the rare earth space and compared it to lithium in sort of 2014, 15, when it went through that period of kind of explosive growth. What's your take on the rare earths market at the moment? And I know you talked to it in the presentation, but maybe just give us your sort of personal views, having been in the sector for some years, as to what we can expect to see in the next decade and beyond.
Yeah, so look, to start with, I mean, if I draw a couple of analogies between lithium and rare earths, one thing we've missed out in the rare earth space is Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I think, was fairly instrumental a number of years ago to talk up lithium as a battery for the EV industry, if you like. Now, it's interesting. There's a lot of poor cousins in the battery space, being graphite, etc., that people just think about lithium. So, we have people that really feel that they know all about lithium. It's on the outside of batteries. I think we all know we interact with a lithium-ion battery. We don't have that same person spruiking about, or spruiking, wrong word, sorry, Elon. We don't have the same person out there promoting this industry as a criticality. There's 17 elements that makes it that extra bit complex. It goes into a magnet. It hasn't been as big an industry, if you like. It's been so China dominated that, at least with lithium, we saw the Pilbara, for example, in Australia start to really break through a number of years ago, with Pilbara and a number of others, and now we've got Mineral Resources in there and the like. So we saw some big names and some big projects get up and running. Now we do have that in Lynas, but they're sort of lone rangers, if you like, compared to the lithium space. I think we're starting to get traction. I think people still don't understand it. They know the high level thematic, if you like. We need to do more promotion of the sector globally to educate people to understand it from a long-term perspective, because when you start to see governments put out $1 billion, you're realising that it must be significant. I don't think the Australian government would be handing out $1 billion loan if it was an okay industry or something for looking at unemployment or anything like that. It is critical. It is number one on just about every geoscience survey of criticality around the world, in the US, Britain, France, Germany, Australia, etc. So I think we just got to educate people more. You're seeing the development of electric vehicles, wind turbines, robotics. I mean, we're not an industrial country here anymore, so we're probably not seeing those manufacturing aspects where a lot of these applications go into. People don't realise they use rare earths. If you've got most people drive a car, if you shift your seat back, there's a little miniature magnet helping you move your seat back and forward. If you put your window down at the McDonald's drive-through, that's using a magnet. So, the phones, everything we do has got an element of rare earths in it. It's just that we don't know. It hasn't been, we just haven't had that real driver in the industry, and someone globally saying rare earths are critical with an Elon Musk type person.
Yeah, very good point. While you were talking, George, an investor did fire in one final question. And speaking of Lynas, he said, at what stage would you expect the likes of a Lynas, I guess any big corporate in the space, to take an interest in your results if they prove to be positive?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question in terms of timing. It's hard for me to speculate on what Lynas and other organisations are doing. We've had inbound calls from companies involved in the rare earth space already. So it shows that it's such a different world to 2010. It took us a long time to get that traction when I was at Northern Minerals 12 years ago, or at the start of that journey 12 years ago. So I've seen a change already, that people are a lot more interested about your activity now versus 12 years ago, where they wanted a lot more significant development of the project, if you like. So those inbound calls have started, but I won't create speculation about who and all the rest of it. They'll have their own plans and the like in terms of when they may get interested in our company.
Thanks very much, George. I think we've dealt with all the questions, so I might just ask you to just take us home by giving us a couple of key thoughts as to why we should keep a very close eye on PVW over the next few months.
Yeah, look, so we've been listed for about 16 months. We've done everything we said we were going to do, so we had a very active year in 2021. We did all the hard work, boots on the ground, to identify the targets. We've raised money last year at 20 cents, 40 cents this year. We've got the capital in place to undertake our drill program. Drill rigs are on the site. We've got a team in place of enthusiastic geologists and fieldies working through that program. We've got the expertise through myself, Robin and Colin, so we know what the end game looks like. It's an exciting thematic, and I think we've got an outstanding project there in the Tanami to hopefully find the next great deposit.
George, thanks very much for your time this morning. And look, thank you to everyone for joining us. I think you can see why we're so interested in this company and why it has such an exciting future ahead of it. A lot of people are going to be watching PVW over the coming months, and I'm sure we'll get George back to talk to us as soon as he has some results. Just a reminder that a recording of this webinar will be available on YouTube and the company's website later today. And it will be distributed through our Resources Rising Stars weekly wrap on Friday. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be in touch with our next event very shortly. Have a great day. Thank you.